In this video, we are going to discuss the various ways in which we can protect our ocean. Before we begin, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any future updates. The oceans comprise 71% of the surface of the globe and are home to several vital species and ecosystems on which we depend for a variety of things, including our food supply, our means of subsistence, the management of climate, and more. However, the oceans require our assistance. The goal of saving the oceans may at times appear to be an insurmountable obstacle, but if we all work together, we have the potential to make a significant impact. The time has arrived when it is more important than ever to work toward protecting your oceans. You could have a limited understanding, if any at all, of the precarious state that the oceanic component of the Earth's ecosystem is in at the moment due to the fact that many of you might not be frequent oceangoers or sailors. Beginning in one's own backyard, this aspect of conservation is now the one that receives the least amount of attention. In light of this, an increased level of immediate and active participation is expected from all parties, including you. It begins with each and every one of you and continues all the way up to the most influential lawmakers in each of your respective governments. Within the framework of the United States of America, the buck stops right here. Former President of the United States Harry Truman is credited with coining such remark before making the decision to attack Hiroshima and Nagasaki anyhow. This potential outcome for the conclusion of World War II brings us to a very significant and more contemporary possibility, which also takes place in Japan. A portion of Japan's coastline was obliterated by earthquakes and the tsunamis that followed them. However, natural calamities were not the cause of the devastation of the maritime ecosystems that were located close to that nation. It was brought about by man's preoccupation with consuming an excessive amount of energy. The sea is ultimately responsible for the survival of humans. The ocean provides sustenance for 40% of the world's population. 70% of the Earth's oxygen comes from marine life, and shipping lanes carry 90% of the world's trade. We look to the ocean for both serenity and medical improvement. Ocean-based tourism in the United States alone is worth an annual total of $124 billion. An enzyme that was utilized in the testing of COVID-19 was originally derived from bacteria that were discovered in the hygrothermal vents of the ocean. Additionally, the ocean functions as a gigantic air conditioner for the entire world. Over the course of the last century, the ocean has been responsible for absorbing approximately 93% of the heat that was caused by emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. According to marine conservation researcher Callum Roberts, who works at the University of York in the United Kingdom, if all that heat hadn't been soaked up by the ocean, we'd all be living in Death Valley conditions by now. Callum Roberts. The dangers that our oceans face are becoming more pressing on a daily basis. Whales, turtles, and dolphins are put in jeopardy when they are forced to swim in waters that are not protected by any nation's territorial waters. This places the huge expanses that lie outside of national waters in the greatest risk. A global network of ocean sanctuaries that would make millions of square miles off limits to companies that are harmful to the environment is the latest scheme that scientists have devised to save our seas. However, in order to make this a reality, the world's countries will need to come to an agreement on a robust global ocean treaty at the United Nations. In order to accomplish this, we need as many individuals as possible to convey to these decision makers the significance of ocean conservation. On the other hand, human activity has contributed to the depletion of marine life. The ocean has become more acidic as a result of increased CO2 levels in the atmosphere, which poses a threat to food chains. Warming oceans are not only causing the extinction of marine life, but they are also altering ocean currents and having an effect on weather patterns all across the world. On top of the agricultural and industrial runoff that poisons coastal areas, we are also responsible for dumping 8 million tons of rubbish into the ocean every single year. If we continue to capture fish at the current rate, there will probably be more plastic than fish in the oceans by the year 2050. According to a report published in 2019, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change issued a dire warning that in the absence of deep economic and institutional upheavals, the oceans and sea ice would suffer irreparable damage. Plastic debris poses a significant and ever-increasing risk to the world's oceans. Every year, land-based sources are responsible for the release of an estimated 17.6 billion pounds of plastic into the marine environment. This is roughly comparable to dumping a garbage truck load of plastic into our oceans every minute. And plastics are never going to disappear. It is imperative that we encourage businesses to give customers options that do not include the usage of single-use plastics, such as straws, plastic cutlery, coffee cups, water bottles, plastic bags, balloons, plastic-wrapped fruit, and food containers for takeout. Carbon dioxide, which is well known as a greenhouse gas, is contributing to the acidification of our oceans. The weakening of corals' calcium skeletons as a result of the increasing acidity of the water is one of the factors that is leading to the overall decline of coral reefs around the world. You may lessen the impact you have on the environment by implementing some of the following easy steps. Instead of driving a car, walk, ride a bike, or take public transportation wherever possible. When you leave a room, make sure the lights are turned off. Instead of dialing up the temperature on your thermostat during the winter, try layering up with a sweater. Add some variety to your diet by purchasing wild seafood that was harvested in a responsible manner. It is a renewable resource that produces less carbon dioxide than land-based proteins like beef and requires only a little amount of freshwater throughout the production process. The most significant danger that our oceans currently face is the practice of overfishing, which is causing fish populations all over the world to quickly decline as a result of rising demand and fishing methods that are not environmentally friendly. Choose sustainable seafood whenever you buy for groceries or eat out to contribute to the maintenance of healthy fisheries and fish supplies. What is the simplest way to ensure that the seafood you eat is harvested in an environmentally responsible manner? Keep an eye out for the labels that have been issued by the Marine Stewardship Council (MSC) and the Aquaculture Stewardship Council (ASC). The presence of their blue and green fish insignia on your seafood guarantees that it comes from fisheries and farms that are maintained in an environmentally responsible manner. There are many items that can be directly linked to the exploitation of endangered or threatened species, as well as pollution and fishing practices that are not sustainable. To cite just a few examples, you should steer clear of purchasing cosmetics that contain shark squalene, jewelry made of coral or sea turtle shell, souvenir shells of conchs, nautiluses, and other animals, and single-use plastic items such as straws and water bottles that have the potential to end up in our oceans. These products contribute to unsustainable fishing practices and pose a risk to vital ecosystems and animal populations. Helping to conserve marine life in our oceans by electing public officials that advocate for sound ocean policy can be of great assistance to us. Do your homework on the various candidates, come to a conclusion based on your research, and only then should you exercise your right and responsibility to vote. Also, make sure that Election Day is not the last time they hear from you before the vote. Engage in consistent communication with your candidates and elected officials to bring the issues that are important to you to their attention. It's possible that the people you elect to represent you in government don't realize how serious the problems that our seas face are. On the other hand, they will if you order them to. It is up to constituents like you to make lawmakers aware of the dangers that marine life in our seas are currently facing. Don't be so reticent. Participate in Oceana's call to action and directly communicate with your elected officials and government representatives. People guard what they love with their lives. Jacques-Yves Cousteau. Get some fresh air and investigate the waters that surround you. If you do not live near the beach, you can still learn about the connection between your watershed and the ocean by going to a nearby lake or river. Additionally, there are a plethora of options to discover the oceans through the use of the internet. The number of people who visit a beach also increases the amount of rubbish that is either left behind or is carried away by the wind. You shouldn't let spending the day outside add to the damage that's being done to our waters. Keep in mind that you should not leave anything behind other than your footsteps, and be sure to gather and dispose of any rubbish you produce. Inform people about what is going on with the oceans throughout the world and what they can do to help you make a difference in the situation. Oceana is the largest international organization whose main mission is to protect oceans, and it already has more than 800,000 members and activists from over 200 countries. Over 200 victories have been achieved by our combined efforts, and over 4 million square miles of ocean have been preserved as a result. However, there is still more work to be done. Join Oceana's Wavemaker program and keep up the good work you've been doing to protect the world's seas. As a Wavemaker, you will be given a monthly update on the most recent ocean news and will be educated on the various ways in which you may contribute to the conservation of marine life. What are your thoughts on the video we just showed you? Please share your thoughts with us in the comment area below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to continue receiving communication from us in the future.